Hey gang, I'm Jay. Welcome to Homemade Heroes. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different and not featuring minifigures in this video. Instead, I'm going to be looking at some brick-built monsters that I've created to use in my games. And I would say that I'm not really a great builder with Lego. I love Lego and can build things to instructions, but making mocks, otherwise known as my own creations, the word that adult fans of Lego use for things that they create from their own imagination as opposed to following instructions from a Lego set. I'm not particularly good at doing that, but I am keen to make things that I can use in my game, and so I try my hand at that every now and again. That's kind of my thing, along with the Lego minifigures for role-playing games. So sit back and enjoy as I chat about the 4 brick-built monsters that I've created, and let me know what you think in the comments below. The first monster I'm featuring here is a giant spider. I originally built this for a free one-shot game, which is quite well known. It is called a Wild Sheep Chase. I put it in as an extra encounter as the party was moving through the forest. As you know, if you've read or watched Tolkien's Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, giant spiders are often found in the forest, sometimes in caves and tunnels too. As you can see here, I've used red 1x1 tiles as the eyes, and I've got the fangs hanging down there in white so that they stand out well against the black. I've positioned the front legs in an upward kind of threatening manner, and one of the cool things that you can do is that you can hinge the thorax so that the back part of the body rises up, which I think does look like a spider when it's threatening or when it's maybe fearful and protecting itself. And I've really doubled down on the use of black here, mainly because this was what I had in these particular pieces, and I wanted it to be a reasonably consistent color. I can also hinge it down to be like that, so that it's touching the ground, but probably typically I would have it in the middle position. Here's the right side of the body with some of the legs in slightly different positions. There's a really great articulation here with the legs, so you can have them all on the ground, you can have some of them on the ground. I typically have a couple on the ground on each side so that it is able to stand, but I've also built this little stand which I often have resting underneath it so that it is a bit more stable. Now to take a look at the top of the spider. It's a little hard to see here, but there we go, we catch the light in the right way, and you can see I've used these shield shaped pieces for the top of the carapace, and that's a really good look. I like the way that they kind of come forward in that pointed pattern. And on the back here you can see this is a piece which has these stone-like patterns in it, and that makes a really great back section for the spider. The next of my builds is obviously a gelatinous cube. It was really cool to see the gelatinous cube come out in the recent Lego Dungeons & Dragons Red Dragon's Tail set. However, I was a little disappointed that it was in that blue coloration. I'm not sure why they did that, as a gelatinous cube in the lore, as far as I can find, is always a clear color. And Lego does have plenty of clear bricks and other pieces, as you can see here. I simply used a white plate underneath and then a couple of these clear window pieces on 2 sides, while the other sides were built out of these 1x2 bricks. With the top you can see it's just filled in by those 2x1 bricks again, and of course I've included a skeleton inside the gelatinous cube, which I think is a great effect. Probably if I was building it again, I might add some other bits and pieces, such as a helmet or a sword or something like that. But overall, I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I built this for a recent game that I played, Wild Beyond the Witchlight. There's a gelatinous cube under one of the hag's homes, and the characters in the game ended up fighting and destroying the gelatinous cube, which was a lot of fun. My third brick built creature here is a owlbear. There are definitely other ways that this could have been done, such as the owlbear that's included in the Red Dragon's Tail. However, I really don't like that owlbear. I think it's a little bit cartoonish, and while it has good articulation in the legs, and the head as well, it just doesn't look that great. Admittedly, Lego does give a slightly cartoonish feel to Dungeons and Dragons and RPGs, and that's kind of the nature, but I do like to have something that's a little bit more realistic, as you could see from the spider and Gelatinous Cube that I've already shown. And I do think this Owlbear gives that slightly more quote-unquote realistic look. See, I've used those black tiles with the white dots as eyes, and over the top of the head, those kind of arched, feathery eyebrows. This gives the Owlbear a really cool look, and having tried the head with and without this particular feature, it definitely looks better with these pieces in place. I think the beak comes out pretty well here, and the general shape of the face is not too bad. From the side, you can see that I've used a number of curved tiles and also those shield pieces to give the shape to the body and also a sense of feathers. This could have been done a little better, I suspect, but I like the way that it looks. You can see here that the claws on the feet look pretty good. There's no articulation in the legs. However, the feet can be positioned in slightly different ways to give maybe a sense of a slightly different stance. Viewing the top here, you can see that I have got the curved tiles over the shoulders to give it that kind of hump back, similar to what a grizzly bear would have. I think this is an important feature for the Owlbear. Around the back here, you can see that I've used this little piece at the top as a little tufted tail, and then these rock-like looking pieces for more feather details. The right side is exactly the same as the left side, and as I turn it to the front here, you can see that I'm able to articulate the head reasonably well. It moves in a kind of a circular shape there, so you can have it looking up. You can have the head tilted to the side as if it's curious. You can have the head looking down. Overall, I think the articulation of the head and those eyebrow-like feather pieces gives this a lot of character. Like with the Gelatinous Cube, I use this in my Wild Beyond the Witchlight game as Juniper, who is a domesticated owlbear. Here is the fourth and last of my monster builds. Now, hopefully this is obviously a Jabberwock, made famous by Lewis Carroll's poem Jabberwocky. Again, this was built intentionally for my Wild Beyond the Witchlight game, as there is a Jabberwock towards the end of that game. I'm really happy with how this turned out, although it is a little bit fragile, as you'll no doubt see as I start to handle it. Here you can see that the wings articulate in a number of different ways. You can have them down, you can have them up, I can have them closed like that or opened out, and I think that looks really good. You can see the kind of elbow here, which is similar to a bird's wing. As you can see, I've had to position my camera a little awkwardly as this is much bigger than the other creatures. Here we have one of the back legs, which have a nice shape to them with that backward jutting knee. And there you can see the long, skinny, finger-like toes on the back leg. As you can see by the tail here, it's long and really articulated, which means that we can position it in lots of different ways. I like to imagine this as being like a cat's tail, which can lash from side to side, showing the creature's anger or frustration. Now to the other side and the front, you can see here on its front paws that it has long fingers. And the way I've built this, the creature can actually hold things in their front hands. You can see that it has a opposable thumb here, which means that you can open and close the hands. And the hands rotate and the fingers all move independently. This is great for posability, and I've definitely used it in one of my solo games to pick up one of the minifigures and hold the minifigure aloft in the air. Here is the underside of the neck, and you can see I've used those shield shapes again to good effect. Here is a closer view of the Jabberwock's head. I've used the large 4x4 white tiles to create those gigantic eyes. And if you're aware of the lore surrounding the Jabberwock, they have eyes that create a beam of light, sort of like Cyclops, but a beam of fire that burns everything in its path. This would be their version of a regular dragon's breath weapon. You can see that I've used that forwardmost piece as nostrils on the Jabberwock, and below its lower jaw there are some frond-like tendrils that hang down, almost like a beard of sorts. The lower mandible articulates downwards, and I have a couple of 1x1 tiles here to represent teeth. I really like the details that the head has, and in profile and from the front it looks really cool. Here's a view of the Jabberwock holding a minifigure in its left hand. As you can see, that works really well. The neck articulates just enough to make it look as though the Jabberwock is looking at the minifigure, perhaps just about to burn this interloper to a crisp with its fiery gaze. Here are all 4 of the builds together. These are really cool and I love using them in my games. From the left we have our giant spider with the front legs posed up in a threatening position. We have our owlbear head cocked to the side, looking down in perhaps confusion or concern. Our slowly moving gelatinous cube in the 3rd position, and then finally, of course, the Jabberwock holding on to its prey and contemplating what it is going to do to this poor individual. Thanks for watching today, folks. I really appreciate spending your time watching this. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you real soon.